Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I will be discussing some fantasy series that I have read part of, but have not finished, and unfortunately do not intend to finish. And this is very sad for me to have to do because I don't like being negative here on YouTube or just in general, and so I avoid talking about negative stuff too much if I can help it. But as a book reviewer, I do have to provide some critiques. And so note that even though I don't like these books, I don't have a problem if you like them. And if you do like them, I'm happy because I want more people to like more books. That is my, I'm kind of like Spock when it comes to reading. I'm like infinite diversity and infinite combinations. I want everyone to read everything. Well, almost everything. There's a few things you shouldn't read. But, I am interested in people, reading more as a general rule. And so these are book series that I've read part of, but I have not finished, and I probably won't finish these series, which is really sad. But I want to hear what you think in the comments down below. If you've read the series, let me know if you liked it all. If you didn't like it, let me know that too. And if you think I should continue on, or you think, yeah, you were right to stop, let me know down below. So I have 4 series here. The first one I will discuss is The Tales of Peli by Kevin Hearn and Delilah S. Dawson. This is a trilogy of books. The first book is called Kill the Farm Boy. The second book is called No Country for Old Gnomes. And the third book is called The Princess Beard. And I read the first book of this series about 3 years ago. And I picked it up because I had read Delilah Dawson's 2 Star Wars books. I read her book Phasma, and I read her book Black Spire. Both are excellent books. I think that both have excellent tones and style, and I think I've said this before that Delilah Dawson is one of, if not the best plotting writer in Star Wars. Her plots inside of her books are just brilliant. The way she weaves a story is gold. Now, I think that maybe Kevin Scott may be giving her a run for her money, but she's still, I think, the best. And she really has not written many books recently, and that's a real shame. She should be writing more books. Del Rey, give her more novels to write. Or Disney Lucasfilm Press. Someone give her more books. But she hasn't written many books for them. But Del Rey's given her, other stuff to do right now. She just recently wrote a book called The Violence, which I'm interested in reading. But anyway, she is an interesting writer, and so I picked this book up mostly because of her. I read a Kevin Hearn book in Star Wars and didn't love it, but I was like, hey, maybe he'll win me over. Unfortunately, he did not. This book is pitched as The Princess Bride meets Discworld. It is an epic fantasy that is entirely irreverent, making fun of itself. It is entirely a satire, and it is meant to be deconstructing the fantasy genre, if you will. And I was hoping for The Princess Bride. What I got was Shrek. And I don't like Shrek. I'll be honest. I might lose some viewers for that, sadly, but I don't like Shrek. And I don't like potty humor, and I don't like crude humor, and I don't like I don't like icky stuff in my books, and unfortunately just the entirety of Kill the Farm Boy felt icky. There were some cool tropes, and I will say at least the chapter headings alone made me buy the book because I was cracking out loud just reading some of them. They are funny chapter headings, but the book itself, when you start reading it, the farm boy is usually the hero, the young boy who is sent on a magical quest to go slay the beast or do the thing and save the girl. And they kill him off in the first couple of chapters. And the whole series, The Tales of Peli, is about the other characters and how they react to his death and how they move on beyond it and how they go on an epic adventure quest. And it has some good ideas. The pitch for this book is brilliant. This trilogy is brilliant. The problem is that it is so crude and so gross. There's so many poop jokes, so many fart jokes, so many sex jokes in this book, just the first book alone, that I just could not keep up with it. And I just couldn't. It was a chore to read. This is a clever book. I will grant it this. It is a clever trilogy. The problem with it is that it is too clever. The way that it is clever is bad. It should not have been that way. It should have been more Princess Bride-ish and more Princess Bride is a funny satire, but it is at least reverent and respectful of the genre that it is making fun of. This is a very irreverent story, and I did not appreciate the irreverence of it, and so that's why I didn't enjoy that one. The next series on my list is a more popular and a more modern one that I'd say is very much well-read, especially in the booktube community, and also might get me some flack, sadly, and that is the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. I read the first 2 books in this series, Throne of Glass and Crowns of Midnight? Crown of something. And I didn't love it that much. I gave them a high review when I rated them at the time, but if I went back and reread the review and wrote it today, it would drop down substantially. I had fun while reading them, but when I think about the books afterwards, I think about so many of the problems that I have with the books. And Sarah J. Maas does not write romance in a way that I appreciate. She does not write romantic relationships or sexual relationships in a way that I enjoy at all, and I was very disappointed in the choices that she made in the series. When you combine that with the fact that I don't think that the series is especially clever or is especially brilliantly thought out, it doesn't make me compelled to keep reading, especially since I've read on some websites that give information about the later books in the series, and I just thought, I don't want to read that. And so I read the first 2 books. They were fine at the time. I really liked them, but as I think about it and my reading tastes have changed, I just don't think I can bring myself to keep reading them. Maybe if more of my friends were reading them, people I knew, or even booktubers that I followed were reading them, but I just can't find myself. I have so many books on my TBR. I don't need to be reading books that I'm not enjoying. So I'm not going to continue that. And that is really my philosophy with this. It's one of the people I can't stand at all is Marie Kondo because of the way she treats books that you should have in your house. But she always is, talking about what brings you joy and keeping in your life the things that bring you joy. And that's how I feel about reading. Is if the reading's bringing me joy, I want to keep reading it. If not, maybe I won't keep reading it. And sadly, it's not bringing me joy, these series. So that's The Throne of Glass. That's my number 2. My number 3 series on my list is the Dragon Riders of Pern series. This is an oldie, and for me, not a goodie. When I started reading this series, the first book I was reading, I remember exactly where I was. I was at a beach house with my family, and I was kicking back and reading this fantasy book, and it was different than anything I'd ever read, but it was enjoyable, and I really liked the unique perspective it brought on dragons and on the wares that really reminded me of the way they portray dragons in the kids series, the Lego Ninjago series, which I really loved as a kid. And the first book has some interesting ideas, but becomes ponderous after a while. And the second and third books particularly do become ponderous. I was not engaged with the characters. I did not really feel for them. The way they were written, it was hard to distinguish between a lot of the characters, particularly the male characters were hard to distinguish between in the first 2 books. And the third book, the characters I was able to distinguish between them, but they just weren't interesting. I just didn't want to keep reading about them. And some people I know have said, oh yeah, the whole series is great. And some people have said, nah, it just goes downhill from here. So I don't know if I don't intend to read it. There's so many books. I might one day keep reading, but there are so many other fantasy books and fantasy books from that era of the 60s, 70s, and 80s that are older, that are more classic, that I am more interested in reading. And so that's just a series I don't find myself continuing on with. Now, the final series I will talk about has a major caveat that I want to include. And this is a series that I won't continue on with it. However, there is a way for me to continue on with it in a different format than you would expect. And that is the Dune series. But wait, you love Dune. You love the Dune movie, you might say. I do. I loved the new movie that came out recently. It was a brilliant, brilliant movie. One of my favorite movies in all of film history. I love the new Dune movie. I cannot stress enough how much I love this movie. And I really enjoyed the first book. But book 2 and book 3, Dune Messiah and Children of Dune, were ponderous reads, frustrating reads. And I was so done. I was so ready to be done with those books. And I didn't enjoy the process. And when you're reading books, you have to enjoy the process. And with those books, I just didn't. And so I really don't intend to keep on with those books, particularly after reading book 3. Everyone said that God Emperor, Heretics, and Chapter House Dune are all even more ponderous, more philosophical. And I was just like, I don't want to read that. However, I did say there was a caveat for this series. I am a huge Kevin J. Anderson fan, and I know that he's a very polarizing figure in literature, but I really enjoy his works. I've enjoyed his fantasy, I've enjoyed his sci-fi, and I've enjoyed his Star Wars quite a bit, although he has some duds in Star Wars, but I've enjoyed him quite a bit. And he co-wrote several Dune novels with Brian Herbert, the son of Frank Herbert, and I really like Kevin's style. And from what I've heard, Kevin and Brian's books, from what I understand, focus more on the political, on the world building, and on the more fantasy type elements, whereas Frank Herbert's other books in the series focus more on the sci-fi, the philosophical, and the moral, social elements of the books. And I'm more interested in the political world building stuff. So I'm really interested in reading Kevin and Brian's books, and from what I understand, I can still read them and enjoy them. So I do want to read those. But the main books by Frank Herbert that I haven't read, God Emperor, Heretics of Dune, and Chapter House Dune, I don't find myself reading anytime soon. So I would really like you to let me know your thoughts. Please change my mind if you think I should keep reading. If you think these books are amazing, I would love to be enlightened. I'd love to read, to be able to learn more, and maybe I will read them one day. But this is just my list of books that I don't really intend to keep reading. So let me know your thoughts down below in the comments section, and please subscribe to the channel where I have many other videos. And until next time, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for watching.